Hi, it's Karen here. Welcome to another video where I share with you my thoughts on what could be a Valentine's Day card. We're going to be using festive berries for distress oxides to create the shading in the heart on the background. Then I've got two colours of greens in VersaFine Clairs. I've got Green Oasis and Verdant. For the reds, I'm going to be using Glamorous, again VersaFine Clair, and the reason I'm using those ink pads is because they always give a really nice crisp image, and because the detail on these stamps, you need a nice crisp image. These butterflies I've stamped in Nocturne. We'll get started. As always, I'm using multifarious cardstock. This is 14.5 by 14.5, but of course that will depend on the size of the heart stencil or shape that you use. So for the heart of the background, I'm going to be using this stencil, which I cut on a piece of card, 300 GSM card, using one of my dies from my stash. But you can use any heart that takes your fancy. I'm going to be using my blending brush, picking up Distress Oxides, Festive Berries, inking up my sponge. And it's only going to take a minute, so I'm not going to tape this down or use my stencil board. And I'm just lightly bringing some of that ink into the card underneath. I'm just lightly tapping it and sweeping the ink onto the card underneath. Now, depending on how hard you do this will be how deep your colour is at the base of your card. So if you want it really soft and subtle, then soft and subtle. If you want it a bit more bright, then that's what you go with. There we go. I like that, really subtle. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the stamps from the stamp set Twisted Vine. You get two in the set. You get these leaves and this set in the same set. And I'm going to ink it up with Verdant. It's a beautiful, beautiful green. Look at that. It's really bright and vibrant. And I'm actually going to go all the way around my heart. I started by bringing a tiny bit off the bottom because, of course, we're going to cover this up with all sorts of other pieces of foliage. I'm just going around the edge of the heart. So it doesn't really matter that I've got scallops here. Now what I did want, you can see in my original card, I brought these down across the middle of the heart there. So that's what I'm going to do first. And then I'm just going to go around the edge of the heart like that. And it doesn't matter if you've got a bit out here. I'll show you how we fix that in a moment. So isn't that so pretty? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Green Oasis, slightly darker green, this one, and the other stamp in that Twisted Vine set. Let me just move this so that you don't get that tapping, an annoying tapping sound. And I'm going to bring this just below the heart. So you can see it's just sort of hanging off. None of this has to be particularly precise. The only thing you don't want is some of these sticks or stalks from some of these foliage, you don't want them sticking way outside the heart. You'll see how we join this up in a moment. So you can see I'm just orienting this stamp in different directions. And because it's a darker colour, it just goes beautifully over the previous stamping that we did. So this is such a fun technique because you don't have to overthink it. Really, you don't. And of course, if you do start overthinking it, you'll end up with, oh, I went too much. And the next thing we're going to do is put some red in it. Glamorous, beautiful, bright red colour. And I'm going to be using one of the mini hearts. This is a pound stamp. And I'm just going to ink it up and just have lots of fun popping it all different ways around my card. Some of these hearts can be peeking out of the bottom, some of them can be peeking out of the top, nestled in some areas. So you can see it's actually really fun. Where shall I put the next one? I'm going to put this one peeping out there. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red dots. This is called mini dots, and again in the pound section, inking it up with my Glamorous. And I'm now going to have lots of fun putting some dots in random places. So you see where we had an overlap of that foliage there, you just put some dots and it all looks as though it's part of the design. Now before I finish my hearts there, I'm just going to go back to this drapey part of the Twisted Vine set, and I'm going to do some of these gorgeous things draping down. So I'm joining some of the branches at the end. So you just get that lovely drapey look. Do I want another one there? I might leave that for now. I'm going to go back to my dots and finish off my red dots. There we go. Just popping them here and there. Peeking out. There, well, that. Lovely. And I think I feel I want to put another set of hearts in there. Lovely. I'm now going to go to my mini flutterbys. I think these are actually called Flutterby Miniature in the pound section. Using my VersaFine Clear Nocturne, I'm going to ink up my little flutterby. Now, he's got some very fine little legs. Just want to make sure that those little legs are resting on something so it doesn't look like he's completely in midair. Although, when I was doing this, I did notice there's a stamp which I don't have, shock horror, and it's called Mini Butterfly, Mini Flutter actually, and the butterfly's wings are stretched out in both directions. So I definitely think that's going to be on my list for next one. And then I took the other butterfly, which is from the Mini Bugs set, because this one's facing this way. And then finally, I'm going to take this tiny little berry set, which comes from the berry wreath with mini berries. You get all these three in the set. And this tiny little stamp will add some really extra interest to our wreath. So I'm just going to pop these little berries at random intervals on the wreath, some where they're joining the other branches, some where they're just popping out, popping underneath. It's so much fun, you can see, because as I said, you can't go wrong. So now it's beginning to look a lot fuller. And there we are. So you can just go on infinitum, frankly. So there we have our gorgeous little card. And if we mount it on some red card, there we have it. Simple, but so much fun. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to see what you make. Bye for now.